Welcome to the 2A Brotherhood Podcast. Proudly sponsored by Goliath Defense and Cock Firearms. How copy over.
Um,
Greetings.
um,
All right. Yeah. Officially, my name is Rashid McCall. I run a company called Opposition Research, Investigative and Protective Services on the investigative end. I do a lot of capital cases through the U.S. district courts,
mm,
as well as human rights and civil rights cases around the country. And then on the security side of our house, Uh, we train people on modern pistol, rifle, shotgun, and special weapons. Member of NAGA, National African American Gun Association. We have over 80,000 members throughout the U.S.
wow.
And a chapter in at least one chapter in each state, and a couple of international chapters. So that is who I am. That is what I do, and I thank you for having me this evening.
It's our
Heck yeah.
pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
When we were texting, and I asked like if you had a bio or anything, let me bring it up. You mentioned something that you take shooting as a martial art, right?
That's correct.
That was very intriguing to me because I love martial arts. We all grew up watching UFC. I even have a Bruce Lee tattoo, so that was awesome.
Right.
Can you go in a little bit on that for me?
Yes, as it relates to martial arts, it has been a ongoing study of mine ever since I was introduced to martial arts as a form of discipline coming up. When we got disciplined, it was push-ups, it was horse stances, it was us studying Wing Chun,
Oh wow.
or Jet Kune Do. The first movie that I remember seeing was The Big Boss at the movie theater here in Atlanta at the Rialto Theater. And then years later, I would graduate from a high school here and then attend Georgia State, and that same theater would bring back memories. So, you know, growing up, I studied Shaolin boxing, a little Wing Chun, some Tai Chi, Jiu-Jitsu, and as I started my college career, I went specifically into Sanukus Ryu, Jiu-Jitsu, as well as Kemete Ryu, Jiu-Jitsu. And, you know, studying that art as it relates to my firearms journey, gave me a unique perspective in terms of, how I train, and ultimately how I started to, train students who came up under, my tutelage.
That's awesome. So you've trained in a bunch of different self defenses, not just firearms. That's amazing. That's the first time we've had that.
Oh, yeah. And, oftentimes we talk about, uh, firearms just being an extension, right, of a punch, of an elbow, of a knee.
Hmm.
And what we're trying to do is control these small explosions, right, inside of our hand and, deal with them on angles to mitigate collateral damage. Because ultimately, if we have to fight with these weapon systems, that is what, is in the back of our mind, right?
Mhm.
dealing with the threat. However, there's another discipline that we call marksmanship, right? Primarily, you're static, you're not necessarily dynamic. So that's a whole different discipline. And, from my experience, a lot of folks want to go from static to quickly, to this, these dynamic movements or disciplines. And that is where, we depart because, I am a student of fundamentals, right?
Mhm.
Got to have sound fundamentals, starting with safety. A lot of times, when I go to classes as a student, and I do a lot of continuing education as an instructor. But a lot of classes that I go to, man, the muzzle discipline is all over the place. And in some cases, the trigger discipline, isn't there. I find myself on the far left of the line or the far right of the line, not in the middle of the line. So I'm not a bobblehead trying to see who's going to sweep who or who's going to have it ND. So, that safety part, I
Mhm.
think, is grossly overlooked in so many disciplines. I think that can be tighter in our community. So much so, I took a sabbatical to Africa to really think about what contemporary firearms training looked like with the emphasis on martial arts. And just rewrote a whole curriculum called boot camp, to deal with that issue. So, uh, and I think the contemporary training that is out there, and I'm not going to name any organizations or formations, I think it's a little antiquated. And
Mhm.
with you guys being the holders or the next generation coming up, behind us, we have to be in a better position to train our community and not just go with what they have been doing over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, because some of that stuff is antiquated.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed every time a person has never held a gun before, as soon as they grab the gun, they put their finger like this, right on the
Right.
trigger. And I mean, i- it's so common. I went shooting with my cousin a couple weeks ago, and I told him the safety. I was like, finger off the trigger, and he did have his finger off the trigger, but he had it inside of the
The
trigger
trigger guard.
guard.
Hmm.
I was like, "Dude, you can't do that. Like, you gotta have it up here, up here."
Right. And we call that um in our system the meridian, right? If I was to take this Glock, and I'm just gonna take the frame off because a lot of times, we train with the frame just to observe, the safety rules in terms of muzzle discipline. But we call this the meridian, the imaginary line, right? That lies
Mhm,
right here. That's between the frame and the slide. And, in our system, that is where our index finger lives until target engagement,
mhm,
right? Um, when we engage in that target, we're prepping that trigger as we come out. When we disengage from that target, we don't even come off of that target until that index finger is on the meridian. And then we bring it back into our workspace. Um, and, this is dry weapons training, right?
mhm,
This is training that people should be doing at home before they even get to the range, right? And a lot of the stuff that you see at the range, in our system, we call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the skill sets necessary to become a proficient shooter and to maintain that proficiency happens off of the range, right? The other 20% is testing out the efficacy of uh, what you're doing, your education, right? The
mhm,
equipment that you're running. That other 20% is on the range, and you have to earn your right to go to the range, right? My students, they don't get just to go to the range, shoot up these big targets and throw them in the trash afterwards. They have to earn their right to go to the range for every 48 minutes that they spend dry weapons training, right? And dry weapons training can be simply reading your own owner's manual,
Hmm.
right? It could be going over the nomenclature of your weapon system. So you know how to triage any malfunctions that you may have, with the system. There's so many things, right? But every 48 minutes that they spend dry weapons training earns them 12 minutes at the range. And I'm a
Yeah.
stickler on that. And it's not 12 minutes at the range. It's 12 minutes at the range with a plan, with a
Hmm.
training plan, because we just don't, again, just go to the range. And one of the ways that we document those sessions is either by writing them in our training journal, or videotaping, or taking pictures, right? That's why, we produce a lot of content. We roll primarily with iPhones, and after 2 terabytes, we max them out. Um, when we buy them, we fill them up, and once we fill them up, we throw them into a safe and go get another one. And I could go back, 15, 20 years. The very first iPhone that I got is about, is big.
Hmm.
But I could go back and see what I was doing 20 years ago, whether it's video, whether it's photos, or whether it's, us, me going through my journals. Every now and then I'll post some of those journals online. And the other thing that is unique, with regards to martial arts and, looking at at training with these weapon systems as a martial art, there is no such thing, right, as a weak hand or a strong hand. We
Hmm.
train on both sides of our body, right? In our system, if we're shooting with our right hand, guess what? We're using our right eye. If we're shooting with our left hand, we are using our left eye, because the eye is a muscle. And if you
Hmm.
understand how to train this muscle, boom, you can volley back and forth between eyes and
Hmm.
between hands, right? It's a science. There's a one of the individuals who was pivotal in my growth and development as it relates to these modern firearms. His name is Chris Sinov, and he dropped a manifesto called "The New Rules of Marksmanship."
Hmm.
And in that manifesto, it talks about um, he has these different exercises, eye exercises, to work the muscles in your eyes to be able to create that proficiency, to be able to volley between eyes, to be able to use your right when when you're shooting with your right hand, to use to isolate that right eye and shoot with it.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with the left. And what that has taught me is that, again, we're dealing with some antiquated theories and practices in the training community. It's a radical departure from what I was taught as I entered this community as an NRA instructor, as
Hmm.
well as a USCCA instructor on many levels.
Yeah. So
I never heard that before. I'm sorry.
I actually grew up doing martial arts, so I'm actually a black belt. I haven't practiced it in many years, and
Hmm.
the martial arts that I got my black belt in is more of a defensive style, and just looking at the comparison between shoot, because I always look at shooting as a defensive thing, especially home
Right.
defense,
Hmm.
um, even in an active war, defense main priority. Um, and I really see the correlation. So it's really nice to see you kind of twist the two together
Yeah.
as a martial art.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also was seeing a lot on your page and everything. Uh, I saw a lot of views where you're teaching a young man.
Hmm.
Is that a son, grandson?
Yes,
Um,
yes. That's my youngest son, Geronimo.
he's
Uh
he's really good. But I really respect how, teaching him how to handle firearms, especially at such a young age, teaching him how to handle
Gratitude.
firearms, teaching him how to control a weapon, and just going through that training young, because I was actually just getting a conversation with my wife about this, teaching kids young how to, number one, respect a weapon,
Mhm.
how to handle a weapon, and what to do in certain situations, starting them off at such a young age really makes a difference. Number one, you know, with if they see one lying around, they know it's not a toy,
Yeah.
Right.
My wife has a nephew. If he sees one lying around, he has no experience with it. He could think of it as a toy and
Mhm.
pick it up.
Absolutely.
And just teaching them that at such a young age is very commendable, and I highly respect that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
I got rid of my Nerf guns. I bought a bunch of Nerf guns, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna play with my sons. I have two boys,
Right.
and then I started thinking, I forgot who we had on the podcast, but it was like 2 years ago, and we were freshly starting this, and he made the point that in his house he doesn't have any Nerf guns because he doesn't want his kids to think that it's a toy. Like
Right.
anything that looks like a gun is a toy.
Right.
And that's when I hid all mine, and I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, we're getting rid of all of these. I'd rather, wait until they get older so I could
Mhm.
teach them safety, and then we
Mhm.
could go from there, then start out with Nerf guns.
Yeah. On my sabbatical, that is one of the issues that I toyed with. As I thought deeply about the safety rules. Rule number one, treat every firearm as if it is loaded. And what came out of that thought process was that one, we have to classify these weapon systems as either imaginary, inert, or functional, right? Because at the time, my son was running around with his toy, whether it was action figures, whether it was hangers. You'll see on my story, he's running around with a broom on his back in a park with a
Mm-hmm.
stick. And I'm like, yo, Geronimo, where's the safe direction? Because he was turning everything into a firearm. Um, so as it relates to rule number one, the first thing that we do, and I teach in my system that we have to classify what we're dealing with. And for most of us, our first orientation to firearms is imaginary. It looks like this, right? For children, like my son, he would, form his toys into guns. But we classify 'em as either imaginary, inert, or functional. The primary characteristic of a inert firearm is it has no mechanical moving parts. So oftentimes we use the blue guns as an example of that because it's a replica. We have replicas of ARs or M16s as well as Glocks and other weapon systems that we use as teaching aids. But the primary uh, as it relates to inert firearms, no mechanical moving parts. And then anything else we deem as functional. The primary classification, if it has at least one mechanical moving part, we classify it as functional. And we know what that rule says we treat every firearm as if they are loaded, every single one. So there is in our system, there is no difference between imaginary, um, inert, or functional. If it's a functional firearm, at that point in time, we identify the feeding source, we isolate it, and then we learn how to clear it and make it safe. And that encompasses for us in our system, rule number one. But what it also does is it gives us the opportunity to start teaching the youth uh, about firearms, whether they're imaginary, whether they're inert, or whether they're functional. And it starts that conversation on, what safety looks like. Like, a few years ago, we were holding Nerf competitions in the park where we invited the community out. We had a safety briefing. We briefed everybody on the nomenclature of the Nerf guns that we were using. And then, we ran a one stage competition, with the whole family. And that was
Mm.
one of the ways that we broke the ice as it relates to safety, and and it was very successful. My son isn't allowed to run around with his Nerf guns. I'll set up a one stage competition inside the house, outside the house, and he gets to run through it. And if he is not pointing that gun in a safe direction, or if he sweeps himself or someone else, we DQ him, and he has to run it back. So um, you know, I think as it relates to the youth, we have to you be creative in terms of how we introduce them to these firearms, because at this point in time it's like the wild west
Yeah.
around here.
Now, what would you say is a good age to start a youth into firearms? Like for me, I have a 3-year-old. Obviously, she's too young for that. But
hmm
what would you say is a good point and to when to start teaching them how to handle firearms, what caliber to start them off with, and what steps to prepare them for real firearms?
Yeah, whenever they start showing their interest, at the point in which they start showing their interest, that's when the conversation, needs to happen. Uh, you know, there's coloring books. What is that thing called? Something, the eagle, the NRA got some eagle running around as it relates to youth and youth education. Or you could come up with some creative ideas yourself. But I would say the age would be at the point in which they start showing interest.
Mm.
Uh, there's cap guns, there's water guns, there's Nerf guns, there's all types of guns, or replicas of guns everywhere that you look. So as soon as they started showing interest, that is when those conversations need to start. Uh, you could get them a water gun, right? A
Mhm.
water gun we classify as a functional firearm. It has a trigger, right? The operative component that makes it go skeet skeet is that trigger. It's expelling that water. You could set up some cups. This is a safe direction.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
this is how we run this particular water gun. This is where the water goes. This is the trigger. Like all of that is invaluable, right?
Mhm.
This is, in our system, typically if we're sitting, we're at a 45-degree angle, particularly, if we're in cars, or we're sitting down, on a couch or in a restaurant. If we're standing, we're typically at 15 degrees, and we know target engagement is generally 90 degrees. But that's one of the things that we go over when we talk about muzzle discipline, right? Rule number two, keeping that muzzle in a safe direction at all times. That's one of the things that we go over as we think deeply about what muzzle discipline looks like. Because I will say that I'm still on the road to mastery, because you could get distracted. And within seconds, that muzzle is either sweeping you or somebody else right in your area of operations. So, muzzle discipline, I'm still chasing mastery on that, because it's so easy to get distracted, and where the eye moves, the body kind of turns. So when we're on ranges or we're operating in environments where the gun come out in defensive environments, that muzzle discipline is critical.
Now, you said mastery a couple times. What is mastery for you? Because I've always looked at training as never really mastering something. You always have the ability to learn, but I've always seen it as there is a point to where you would be considered a master. So, what does mastery mean for you? What does that look like in terms of your training?
Coach, real quick, I'm sorry. That was a great question, Austin. Can you see if you can recycle your camera because it's off right now?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you guys are frozen. I could still see myself.
There
Okay,
you
now
go.
y'all
All
moving
right.
again.
There we
All
go.
right.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, mastery, I'm still chasing that. Um, I am still there in my opinion, this has been a lifelong journey, at the point in which I thought I had my master grip or I had that grip that I would have for the rest of my life. Uh, I'm a graduate of Rogers Shooting School, and I go there every year, alternating between pistol and rifle. And this year I was there, working pistol. I mean, last year I was there working pistol, and I found myself changing my grip based on me engaging the slide stop because of high my grip is. And, what that told me was, I'm still on this journey. I am still learning, as a student, um, to, perfect these systems. And the pistol is different than the rifle, and the rifle is different than the shotgun. And, I love the technology. I love learning about the technology, the nomenclature. There's always something different about these weapon systems, whether you're talking about striker fire pistols or hammer fire pistols or, single actions or double actions. It's very fascinating, to me. And I think that, uh, chasing mastery is a lifelong journey. I don't know if I will ever get there, but you know, it keeps running away from me, so I keep chasing it.
Yeah, that's always about adapting and overcoming, you know. That's why I was saying earlier, I've always looked at it as never really truly mastering something because you could always find something to improve on.
Yeah,
If you look at top athletes, we're coming up to a point to where 60, 70 years ago, a track athlete, top time isn't even close to what the top time is now. We're always
right.
improving and finding better ways to do it. And same goes for shooting, like you said, adapting your grip, adapting how you draw. For me, I always practice my draw and I found a better way. And so I kind of went back to the basics of slowing it down
Yeah,
and, retraining myself just because I found a way that's more comfortable for me. And, just having that ability to to be humble enough to say, hey, what I'm doing isn't really working as best as it could be. I'm
yeah,
going to adapt to this.
absolutely. Um, and I think that is a hallmark of a good student. It's a hallmark of a good educator. It's a hallmark of a good instructor. To be open, um, and to be adaptable because in these times, you have to. There's, you know, there, in my opinion, there's not one way. To do things. You can approach a problem 360 from 360 degrees, and that's how, I look at this art, with the modern pistol rifle or shotgun. And, we're forever adapting. Who's to say in the next 5 years, we will no longer be using this type of antiquated self defense mechanism. We might move to the phasers from Star Trek,
Yeah,
right?
that would be
We're,
cool.
we're, we're waiting for the next evolution, right? Of these systems, and it's coming. It's
Yeah.
coming, right? You see how fast we're moving as it relates to AI and the development of these 3D printers, and even the deep dive into our molecular structures and the food that we put into our mouth. Because even my program has boot camp has adapted over the years to include mental health right? That's a part of martial arts.
Mhm.
Mindfulness, right? Proper nutrition,
Mhm.
right? Staying fit, doing things, on a daily basis, um, um, that, you know, uh, leads to, your limberness or your dexterity or your strength. Um, and then, fitness, right? I don't necessarily have gym time. When I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is do some push ups, I do some squats, and
Mhm.
generally I'm doing it with my weapon system, right? Working on, my grip, working on my side alignment, sight picture, right?
Mhm.
So I'm knocking out two things at one time, right? That physical aspect of making sure that my body is getting up and moving and I'm getting some type of exercise while at the same time because it's hard pressed not to find me armed. That's one of the first things that I do when I wake up in the morning is get my gun, you know, check it, test it,
Mhm.
work out with it, and put it on my body, and I'm out. I'm off for the day.
Do you put it on before you brush your teeth?
Yes, absolutely,
Me too, me too.
absolutely.
Soon as I
Yeah,
wake up.
before the date. Yep,
I got a
Yeah.
yeah.
So
toothbrush attachment for mine. I just
so
Yeah,
so so earlier we were talking about using different eyes while shooting. So I'm a right hand dominant shooter, but I'm left eye dominant.
okay.
What kind of advice would you give me on how to fix that or how to adapt to it?
Uh, Again, new rules of marksmanship, right? A lot of times, for new shooters, one of the things that we focus on, sight alignment, sight picture, right?
Mhm.
The difference between the two is rear sight, front sight, target, opposed to rear sight, front sight. Um, and you don't necessarily need a gun, right, to do these type of exercises. You could just extend your thumb out as if you have a imaginary gun,
Mhm.
and track right with your right side, right. And I have my students do that a number of times to make sure that they're tracking with the correct eye. And then from there, I will have them cant it so that the left eye picks it up
Mhm.
and we would track out 5 times. And then in the middle of that, can it back to the right. My right eye picks it up. It starts to work that muscle
Mhm.
uh, in the eye, right? There's also some other techniques where, we use this string and some beads and we tie it to the door and we focus on the nearest bead to the middle bead to the bead that's closest to us, right? Going back and forth, switching or volleying, um, switching between, eye and eye.
Mhm.
So being very intentional about you know working into your training routine, and I'm not really sure what that looks like.
Mhm.
Um, eye exercises. It could be done while you're driving. I'm old school. I still wash dishes, so uh, I'm doing eye exercises when I wash dishes. Sometimes when I'm out there in the field, when I have to scan areas, I'm
Mhm.
scanning, far to near and near to far, right? And I'm being very deliberate in doing it with one eye or the other. So, there's practical exercises that you could work into your everyday activities, right? To get that work in without scheduling it, because that's something that I had to do personally because there's not enough time in the day um,
Mhm.
to do everything that you want to do. So I
Yeah.
find myself
Yeah,
stacking stuff
yeah.
Mhm.
right on top. Just like when I wash dishes, I'm washing dishes in the horse stance. So not only am I working, on that particular stance, I'm also doing some eye exercises, but I'm also washing, dishes maybe with my left hand that day. And then I'll switch back to my right hand
Hmm.
the next day. When I write in my journal, my training journal, right? I alternate between left hand and right hand. When I eat
That's
out
pretty
and I'm
cool.
using chopsticks, I alternate between my left hand and my right hand.
With
So
chopsticks? You've
with
Right.
been doing this for a
chopsticks.
long time.
Right.
Hey, so look, it's a
I
martial
got it.
art.
Uh-huh.
It's a way of life,
Yeah.
right? And that's how we got to look at it. That you know, yeah, if you're about this life, you find ways to adapt and to incorporate it into the things that you have to do on a daily basis. And, I've been fortunate enough to I've been fortunate to be able to be disciplined enough to uh, make that happen and, encourage my students to do that, as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
I never thought about it that way.
yeah, me
Everywhere you
neither.
go.
And like switching up, writing and everything, and training your eyes. I
Oh
never,
yeah.
heard any trainer say that before. They talk about switching, hands and everything. But the way you said it, that's pretty cool. You never stop learning, man.
Oh
Right?
yeah, no doubt.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that me and Austin have been talking about, is getting SBRs.
Okay.
Do you have an opinion on an SBR? Like, what would be a good caliber for it, or 5.56, 300 blackout?
Uh, I think guns are purpose driven, right? A lot of people who come to me, they're not necessarily coming for defensive purposes, nor do I teach defensive tactics.
Mm,
I am a basic fundamentals guy,
mm,
right? You want to learn defensive tactics and all the other stuff, I send you to my guys, right? I employ in some cases, in some of the business contracts that I have, I employ corpsmen and other guys to who specialize in that. But we use these tools for sustenance, right? To put food on the table, particularly here in the South. We also use them for defensive purposes, but we also use them for recreation. There's over a dozen games at the Olympics that requires you to break a shot, right? So I encourage my students, um, you know, as they begin their journey as it relates to their education, as they get their equipment, as they start training, right? To stay proficient. Yo, I got to hit these competitions, and um, uh, going back to your question before I go off on a tangent.
mm.
Yo, it's purpose driven.
Mm,
SBRs, we have braces now, right? I know the sun has set on the tax stamps and all the other stuff, but there's still laws, right?
mm.
That govern you taking that gun out of state or
Yeah.
taking that
Mhm.
suppressor out of state, right? So, are you filing the correct paperwork every time that you go out of state to go to a match or you to go on
Mhm.
vacation?
Mm.
I'm not doing that. I'm gonna grab. I'm I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna rock out with a uh either a J Mac gearhead works with the tail hook, or I'm gonna get the latest and the greatest SB. I thought this one had a one the latest SB brace on it, but yeah, I'm not doing that. I like my stuff short. We primarily run these when I run executive protection teams. We specialize in non-permissive environments.
Mhm.
We're rolling out with armored backpacks, and we're usually rocking out with rattlers. and 300 black. Usually, suppressed. So when we come out of the bag, it's already suppressed. We're talking about 5.5 inches, and we're running critical duty on a professional level. So, with regards to what my recommendations are, what's your purpose? And are you trying to be quiet? Are you trying to be loud? Some people like to be loud, but personally, I like to be quiet. So a lot of the weapon systems that we run are definitely quiet. And a lot of the testing that we do as it relates, because we have experienced a renaissance in cartridge development, y'all. It is crazy, right?
Mm.
So you could tweak the propellant, right, to match the bullet, for that bullet to either be an AP round, or for that round to do something else. You got some mad scientists out here right now. So what I tell a lot of people as it relates to the systems that they want to run in
Mhm.
rifle caliber pistols, because that's primarily, what we run with braces on them,
Mhm.
and not necessarily SBRs. SBRs, SBSs. We used to do all that stuff back in the day when we didn't have the flexibility that we have now. And with regards to what we do, we have abandoned, for the most part, the SBSs. We still have them. We still have SBRs, but they sit around.
Mhm.
Our pistols, our rifle caliber pistols, they get more play than anything else. And this is a Smith and Wesson MMP 1522.
Mm.
Mm.
So all of the systems that we run,
Yeah.
we have 22 compatible systems, whether they are rifles or whether they're handguns. For the
Mhm.
Glocks, we use the Glock 44s. We've been using the TX 22s because them things eat everything. That is the best 22
Mm.
on the market that
Mhm.
I have ever seen since I have been training personally, and I have been training others. Prior to that, we were using the Smith and Wesson MMP 22.
Mhm.
And then, once upon a time, we were using the Rugers, the 2245s. You remember when they was, hard as hell to break down, and then they came out with the little, you know, um, one touch thumb breakdown on the 2245. But yeah, every system that we run at this point in time, we have a comparable 22 system, whether they're AKs, whether they're SCARs,
Mhm.
whatever. They're, we got the HK 416s and 22s. Um, um, yeah, everything. It's a good time to be a shooter, right? We have a lot of options. We have a lot of options. Once upon a time, we couldn't get thermal. We're running thermal. Once upon a time, we couldn't get malls. AR lasers.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, we dress 22s up just like we dress up our regular systems that we run,
Mhm.
and you could go to Walmart and get 14, 1,500 rounds for $30.
Mhm.
That sounds
Um,
nice.
Which
yeah, so,
which 22 brand do you like to use the ammo?
it varies. At Walmart they got this bucket of Golden Bullet that we
Remington?
run through.
That's
I
Remington,
just
right?
can't, huh? The
That's
Golden Bullet.
Remington, right?
Yeah, that's the Remington. We
Mhm.
use Federal. I mean, we have it
Okay.
all.
Mhm.
We test and have it all. They just came out with a new round called the Uppercut.
Yeah.
I
I
haven't I
heard of
haven't
it.
yo, and it's mushrooming like
Yeah.
traditional rounds. This
Uh,
shit is crazy,
mhm.
right? I was at SHOT Show, I was at SHOT Show this year, and I was just amazed
And
at the variety of defensive ammunition.
Yeah.
that is coming out, particularly
Is it this?
22, the uppercut. Yes,
Yeah.
yo, that is crazy.
Look at this.
Yes,
Mhm.
we have never seen a 22 like that ever before. We have never seen this. So this is an example, right? This is an example of what I'm talking about. So this gets me very excited. Right? I'll jump up in the morning. I'm out on the range with ballistic gel, and we're running this shit right through different mediums
Yeah.
Mm.
because you know when you talk about um ammunition selection or cartridge selection,
Mhm.
you gotta know what type of rifling you
Yeah.
have inside of your barrel, right?
Mhm.
You also gotta take into, and these are factors, right? You gotta take into the length of your barrel. You gotta take
Mhm.
into account the length of your barrel, the type of rifling, right? The weight of the bullet, the type of propellant that you're using. And all of those are even if you're running a suppressor,
Mhm.
because that particular round is gonna be is going to act differently coming out of that suppressor than it does coming out of that regular muzzle. And then, what type of muzzle brake are you running on that? And shout out to Pew Science. He has the suppression, the silencer industry in the headlock right now. Pew Science, if y'all don't follow him,
Mhm.
uh, he's a DoD engineer.
Yeah.
He runs a ballistic lab called Pew Science. Um, um, the name of his podcast is the J Situation Podcast. I do not buy any suppressors unless I go and look up
Mhm.
his research, and he's very methodical
Yeah.
with regards, and he sets to rest, all of the fallacies, and he's an old head. He comes from the old school,
Mhm.
so you know, uh, he has the suppressor industry in the headlock in
Mhm.
terms of a lot of these claims that they have made, around 5.56, 300 blackout, 308.
Mhm.
He's doing a lot of research on 22. Um, but going back to that, you got to know what type of rifling you have, whether it's traditional lands and grooves, whether it's polygonal rifling, the length of the barrel. Sometimes that length is gonna turn a supersonic round into a sub
Mm.
automatically,
Mhm.
right? And if you don't know that, um, no, is your capabilities in terms of why you're running that particular system, the length of the barrel, it just changes if you're not taking that into consideration. And you have to you have to be purpose driven. You want to go ahead later? All right, good night. Um, you have to be purpose driven on the cartridges that you run through your selected system, whether it's 300 blackout, whether it's 5.56, 223, 308, 762 by 51, 726 762 by 39. Because I like AKs.
Hmm.
I like running subs through
Yeah.
my MK. Shout out to Rifle Dynamics. They got a hell of a
W
build class out there in that Nevada. Shout out to Sharps Brothers. He made a nice receiver for that 704 that is ran by Garand Thumb.
Yeah.
Um, it's some nice kit, nice weapon system.
How how do you feel about 22 mag? Do you think it's a viable self defense round? Because like Hornady came out with one, Gold Dot.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 22 mag.
Yeah,
Hey, bro, it's all about shot placement.
that's true. Yeah.
It's all about shot placement, right? And
Mhm.
we don't miss.
Right.
We don't miss. Yeah, yeah. You know, I talk about Rogers Shooting School. And if you don't know about Bill Rogers, right? This guy right here, Safari Land bought his company twice over.
Mhm.
He is the father of Kydex holsters.
Mhm.
He is the father of shooting sports, period.
Mm.
He is one of the founders of US PSA or US, what is it?
Yeah.
USPS
Yes.
SA,
I always mess
right?
it up too.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
which spawned, all of the shooting sports.
Yeah.
Uh, he is uh Safari Land. He invented all of the level ones, the level twos, the level threes,
Mhm.
holsters, the ALS, the GLS, this whole system, which is modular. Um, this cat right here, and his school used to be classified um, for a time. It's up in the North Georgia mountains,
Mhm.
and you know he teaches you how to hit targets in a quarter of a second
Hmm.
based on the natural human response time. And you'll get there and his whole range is mechanized steel
Hmm.
that is ran by a computer. So there is no cheating.
Wow.
It is mechanized steel
Mhm.
ran by a computer. And
Crazy.
his school was classified for a period of time because some people ran into him, right? And as a result, he spun up all of the GWAT operators initially. Um, and, after a period of time, the US allowed him to open his school up to the public. The site is still classified, but a lot of those guys who have retired now and are running the school, right, from different units.
Mhm.
So that is where I make my pilgrimage every year, alternating between pistol and rifle. But he's also a mad scientist. He was the first one to put a dot on a pistol, in which the rest of the industry. And he's quiet and he's humble and he's in his 80s right now. And Safari Land bought his holster companies out twice over.
Mhm.
But he's a quiet giant in this industry and has impacted personally, my growth and development, my training. I think I have his book. I'm gonna run his
Okay.
get his book right quick.
Yeah. Dude, that's crazy, man. To have the whole shooting range operated by computers,
Right?
that would be crazy.
Yeah, so his book, whenever you sign up for a class, he's gonna send you this, and he's gonna send you one of those hand exercise things.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you go to his school, you gotta have some strong hands, right? To
Mhm.
be able to keep up. So he preempts that by sending you his book, which is basically a biography about, how he got into the position that he's in and how he's been blessed in the industry and has blessed us militaries, police forces all around the world use his inventions and his techniques. He's legendary,
Mhm.
but he's a very humble person. He doesn't brag. He's quiet. You would never know he's in the room, or you would never know that you're using a piece of his equipment.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, can you
Well,
text me his name whenever you get a chance so we can look him up?
yeah,
Oh,
definitely,
absolutely.
man.
Well,
Yeah,
Definitely.
real
yeah,
quick,
yeah.
talking about holsters and silencers, we're gonna give a quick shout out to our sponsors. So a really great place to get some silencers is Cock Firearms, and he doesn't just sell silencers. He sells suppressors. He sells all parts kits. He sells any type of firearm you need. Really great supplier. Today
Mhm.
we're in the world of online shopping. No one goes to the stores anymore. If you want to get something online,
Right.
you got to go online. And uh and this guy is like the Amazon of the firearms world. Okay, the super center, the mecca of the Amazon of the firearms world. Okay, and when you pick up a firearm from, let's say a pistol, you're going to need a place to carry it. You were talking about holsters. Well, Goliath Defense makes some top tier holsters. All right. Stop using those old school universal leather holsters. Stop using those universal Kydex holsters. All right. Get you a holster that fits your firearm. Stop
Mm-hmm.
using a wet paper bag. Okay. Don't be tucking it into your pants. Okay. All right. Get you something right. All right. Only lames be doing that. Secure your firearm like a professional and go to Goliath Defense and get you a proper holster.
Professional. He
Professional.
smells the lifestyle.
Yep. And if you use code 2AB, all right, 2AB on both
2AB.
sites, Goliath Defense and Cock Firearms, that'll get you 10% off. I'm not lying to you here, okay? I promise you. I promise you. That is a deal of a lifetime, okay? Go to the Amazon of the firearms world, okay? The Walmart Supercenter, all right? Online shopping, get you a firearm, get you parts, get you a suppressor, all right? Whatever you need, he will send it to your local FFL, all right? And you can get 10% off on that. I'm actually working with him right now on building my 300 Blackout. He's getting me a whole parts list together on what I need. And you know what? Like I said, stop carrying a wet paper bag to carry your firearm. Be legit and don't quit.
There we go.
To quit,
Yeah, that was a good one.
right?
So
So-
how long have you been in the firearms world? Like what got what got you started? And what has kind of driven you to push so hard?
Yeah, man. I heard when I, turned 21, I could get my first handgun. So at 20, well, at 19, I started doing my research.
Yeah.
At 20, I made my purchase. And on my birthday, my 21st birthday, I hopped on a bus here in Atlanta, Georgia, and went to the pawn shop that I had been diligently paying over the course of a year to pick up a Glock 23. And that was in 1994.
Okay.
And, in 1994, we cartridge development was blah. So, they had married the 9mm and the 45 and had this 40 Smith & Wesson baby. And, at the time that was the latest and the greatest. So, as I started to do my research, definitely didn't have any money to go out there and try different guns. I just started looking at militaries, particularly NATO. And then this gun called Glock just kept coming up. I started doing a deeper dive into it. And then I realized that the company had a headquarters in Atlanta in this hemisphere. Like, and I think at that point in time, it was the only headquarters in this hemisphere. Since then, I think there's one down in South America, one in Asia, and then one back in Austria. And there might be one in the Emirates now, but we had Glock, right here in the Atlanta metropolitan area. And before now I don't encourage people to buy Glocks because they're free every single weekend. And I'll get tired of telling people this, right? When I jumped out to SHOT Show, I won a Glock. And I had been, pubbing it the whole time. But every single weekend, GSSF, the Glock Sports Shooting Foundation, every single weekend on the West Coast as well as on the East Coast, particularly their outdoor component of that organization, because they have an outdoor league and an indoor league. But Glock gives away the most equipment in terms of suppressors, Glocks, cash, and Glock swag in the industry, bar none. And they have been doing it since the 90s. And prior to me, really getting that understanding, I made the mistake of buying one at 20 years old. But now, I don't buy them no more. When I get them, it becomes a part of the armory. And, the good thing about our boot camp classes, whether it's modern pistol, modern sporting rifles and rifle caliber pistols, that's boot camp 2. Boot camp 3 is modern shotgun. Boot camp 4 is special weapons. But regardless of what class that you come to, we provide you with everything. We just ask you to show up. So we actually have an armory, and our armory is based on our research into NATO. So we have entry level guns, we have mid level guns, and then we have the top tier guns for those individuals who want to, test them out before you buy them. Because one of the things in terms of developing this program, what we wanted to do is to provide all of the equipment to, make our students successful before they have to go out and buy them. And it also, creates a situation where there's free resources as it relates to, hearing protection, eye protection, ammo, guns, even medical training. We send a lot of our students through CERT, community emergency response teams that is typically funded by FEMA, to get to stop the bleed training, to get and that particular program, CERT, um, they it's FEMA funds primarily every county in the U.S. with mass casualty training,
Uh,
right, for free. It's like a nine week program. You go in there a couple, depending on how they have it set up. You go in there a couple times out of the week for 9 weeks. At the end of that, you get your credentials, you get a book bag with all types of tools in it, and you get free continuing education.
Oh
You are
wow.
trained as a auxiliary force for first responders in the event of a mass casualty event,
uh,
whether it's man made or whether it's based on Mother Nature. And when we talk about, man made, we're talking about the derailment of trains,
mhm,
right? We have come accustomed to trains derailing in communities, planes falling out of the sky.
mhm,
We have become accustomed to mass casualty events based on weather events um, and active shootings, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
they call you up. We may do some mock runs, or they may call you up for a disaster that has happened. But boom, you roll out, with your kit, your credentials, and you go do some good work in the community, and that is free.
And this is in your classes, the boot camps?
No, this is well, I promote it in my
Okay.
classes. Right. This is a federal program that's ran by FEMA, the
FEMA.
Federal Emergency Management Association or Administration, CERT. So, and what I tell most of my students is, the hack is look at your surrounding counties, see who is the best funded, and you will get the best equipment, right?
uh,
And the best training. So just look in your area of operations, determine what counties are best funded as it relates to CERT, and go get that training and go get that continuing education. So in boot camp, we provide that information
Mhm.
to our students to encourage them to go get that training. We provide information as it relates to GSSF, the Glock Sports Shooting Foundation, to go there every weekend to pick up these free Glocks. And it's so plentiful, right? I tell my students the first one, keep. The second one, sell that, get the most expensive Glock, sell it and go get you a rifle caliber pistol.
mhm,
The third one, buy you a suppressor or some ammunition, right? The fourth one, invest it into your training, right? The fifth one, give it away, bless somebody with it. And then the sixth one, you just start all over again. But just know that you will get a 1099 if you win more than 2 a year. If you don't give them away, so they will 1099 you.
I I had no idea about this.
Absolutely,
I've
most people don't.
never even heard about this.
Right? Me neither.
I wrote it down. I'm gonna go look it up. And also
Yeah. What
the FEMA class too.
hmm
what state are you guys out of?
Maryland.
Hmm.
I live in PA now,
Oh
so
yeah, I forgot you moved to PA.
Okay. Yeah, there's matches in PA. There's matches in Maryland, Ohio. They're running through Kentucky. Well, actually, they're in South Carolina this weekend. I'm organizing a match for a Georgia match, which is going to be a week today. Uh, and what they do is, there's 4 ways to pick up these Glocks for free, right?
hmm
The first way is volunteering, right? For every half day or for every shift that you volunteer, you you get a raffle ticket exclusively for all the volunteers.
Mhm.
hmm
And you don't have to have any experience, right? As long as you could take a piece of tape and paste it on a bullet hole on one of the targets,
Mhm.
boom, you're in the drawing. So guess what? Your children could come out and paste,
Mhm.
right? Or spray paint, the still targets.
Yeah,
That's
And their
cool.
name still goes into the drawing for what? The free gun.
that's awesome.
Your name still goes
Yeah.
into the jar for the free gun, but you got to put your name on that ticket,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because, liability purposes, they
of
used to give
course.
them like saving certificates and all that other stuff, but
hmm
the hack is to put your name on their ticket because if not, they gonna get something else. So
Yeah.
put your name on that. That's the first way to pick up these free guns. The second way is to actually shoot the match, right?
hmm
And this is a static competition. It's static. It's not dynamic. You're not moving around.
Mhm.
And all you're doing is throwing up scores, right? So that the next time you shoot the match, right, you're trying to beat that score. So you're only competing against yourself.
Okay.
Everyone who shoots the match, they randomly go down the list. You get a gun, you get a gun, you get a gun, you get cash, you get cash, you get cash, you get Glock swag, you get everybody, yo. So everybody who shoots the match, you randomly get guns, cash, and swag.
That's
Period.
crazy.
Now, the third way, if you shoot at the top of your division, and there's over a dozen divisions, divisions for the women, divisions for guardians, divisions for stock guns, divisions for unlimited guns, divisions for the Glock, right? 44, which is the 22 long rifle. So, they have over a dozen divisions, but if you shoot at the top of your division, you automatically get a gun. And then the fourth and final way that you could pick up these guns for free is if you bring someone to the match who shoots for the first time, or if you recommend them, right? They're back in the day, it was a little antiquated. They've upgraded their systems. So now when you sign up to become a part of GSSF, uh, you have an online account. So whenever you're awarded your guns, cash, and all that stuff, it hits your account. So it's right there. It's Slimline now. It's on your online account. And once you become a member, they send you 1 coupon a year to buy a Glock at the wholesale price if you choose to do that. Right. So you get blue label pricing, what we call in the industry, blue label pricing
Mhm.
on your Glock. But if you guys are interested or your viewers are interested in buying Glocks, I recommend GT Distributors. They do a lot of police trade-ins and they buy out a lot of property rooms. So their Glocks start at $250 and they go up from there depending on the generation and the model. And then once you get that, right, you go to the factory and they rebuild it while you wait. It typically takes 45 minutes and it's free.
Wow.
And in the event that they come back and be like, yo, we don't have this part, guess what? You get a brand new gun of your choice.
What was that again? You said GT.
GT Distributors, they have a shop here in Georgia, Rossville. They have one in Texas, and they have one in Florida. And if you go to their website, go down to their gun broker link, and that will give you a snapshot of the property room that they have. You know, any of the property rooms that they've looted or any of the police departments that they bought out recently. And typically, you could call the 1-800 number and pull that stuff and have it shipped to your FFL. So that's GT distributors. They are a main distributor.
You got to be
Yeah, I
18.
just looked them up.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Go all the way down to the bottom. All the way to the bottom. All right. Look for you're looking for the options. They're on Gun Broker.
Your gun broker sales. I see right
Y-
there.
I see firearm. I don't.
Yeah,
Oh,
right
right
here.
there, right
Under
there.
firearm options. Yep.
Got you.
Yeah, go there. And then if you go in there, it'll give you a snapshot. You know, we were buying
MP5.
yeah, their prices are dumb, crazy, cheap.
Mhm.
I got a scar.
Damn, I never. Like a whole new world, man.
Right?
Yeah, man. What did y'all expect?
Look at that. Gen 4, $295. This one's $270. Wow.
Yeah.
We appreciate you telling us
Yeah,
all this stuff.
it's definitely
I'm writing it down.
right.
Oh yeah, no worries, man. We're all here to share, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, when we started this podcast, that's when we started seeing how, like, how humble and how respectful and how inviting the 2A community really is. Like, we've
Mhm.
never had anybody on the podcast that's been like that stood out like I would never want to talk to this person ever again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that has been my experience too. You know, I jump around the country a lot at different events that are curated, you know, from the West Coast to the East Coast. Last year we had Pew Party. We was in Dallas shooting out of helicopters, gave over $70,000 worth of merchandise away, including a Q fully suppressed 8.6, if you guys are familiar with that particular round, you know, that got released over the last couple of years. But, you know, every single weekend somewhere in the country, whether you're talking about CanCon, the gathering that is held by um, this outfit out of who makes PSA? Palmetto State Armory.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hold an event called The Gathering that's coming up. It's a machine gun shoot. It's going to be at the Clinton, excuse me, the Clinton Plantation in South Carolina. CanCon, they're running from coast to coast. They have one on the West Coast as well as on the East Coast. So there's a plethora of shooting events that are held every month around the country. And either find myself, at some of those events, at these competitions, or, we're holding our own events, with regards to, you know, promoting responsible gun ownership. It's a very exciting time to be a part of this culture, as, states are, easing up the historical restrictions that we've seen in the past. It's a good time to be in the industry.
Yeah.
Like a firearm renaissance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like something that I read about the tax stamp that used to be on SBRs and silencers. Um, I I don't know if this is true or not, but it was on the internet. But the person was saying that the reason why the SBR laws were passed was because the gangsters back in the day during the Prohibition, and the Tommy guns were short. Is that true or?
Um, a Tommy gun ain't short.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
you're not hiding no Tommy gun.
that's a big ass heavy
I'm
gun.
hell yeah. Yeah, that shit ain't being hidden nowhere. No, it's not true. I mean, it's common sense, right?
No.
Yeah, that's not true. I mean, I can't even really hide a SBR.
Hmm.
We've been chasing for years the smallest compact SBR that we could just throw in the backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, you know, aside from a pistol, a full size, frame,
Hmm.
um, when I was at SHOT Show, I was at the Flux booth, doing interviews. I think I dropped some content on that.
Hmm.
Very amazing chassis for the P320 and the P 365. Suppressed, unsuppressed, coming out, appendix, using a holster. Man, we've been chasing these small systems, ever since, the 90s. Um, so yeah, ain't nobody is concealing no Tommy gun unless you're in the dead cold winter, right? And you're wearing a trench
Trench
coat
coat.
or, big heavy coat.
I,
It's not
yeah.
going down like that.
I think it was more because they was full auto than
Yeah.
concealability.
Full And then, even with full auto and FRTs and switches, now we're having a renaissance. I mean, the FRT has collapsed
Mhm.
the machine gun market,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? It has collapsed the machine gun market. Like, if you want a FRT and this is a force reset trigger,
Mhm.
you have some content on my page as it relates to specifically the TX22.
Mhm.
I have a partner who makes the rate reducer for that particular system, and he has an excellent video that I'll probably repost that shows you the benefit of the rate reducer. When I start running into FRTs, uh, I think it was Rare Breed is one of the reputable ones that we were testing out, particularly on Geisley Super Duties. I believe it was the 11.5-inch Geisleys. Phenomenal, trigger system, but it's purpose driven. Again, all these accessories are purpose driven. We currently we're currently testing out the FRTs on the TX22, to run drills on, our grip side alignment, running them static as well as dynamic. And that is us chasing mastery.
Mhm.
And just being, you know, uh, work that trigger discipline. So in my opinion, you know, I'm not going to be out there carrying no FRT on my person. That is not
Mhm.
going to happen because the legal ramifications of that, and hopefully everybody here is carrying some type of insurance.
Mhm.
Um, carry insurance, just like we drive around and have car insurance.
Mhm.
If you are armed, as a regular citizen or armed professional, like we carry on the professional side, we carry over $1 million worth of insurance. But just on the regular side, I carry just regular insurance because, when I'm not working and I'm out in the streets, I still have my weapon system on me. So I like to be covered on both sides. But all this stuff, man, is perfect, is purpose driven. And back to your original question, as it relates to these laws, um, a lot of these laws were enacted, when you have civil unrest.
Mhm.
And that is what history teaches us. When there is civil unrest, laws are enacted to make sure that people don't have access
Mhm.
to this particular equipment. And that, in my opinion, and being a student of history, is where a lot of the NFA laws came from. And, the laws trying to gut right, our universal right to self-defense. Because I addressed this in my classes, whether or not this is a question of civil rights or whether or not this is a question of human rights, right? And you have to answer for yourself what that looks like. But you know, I am going to protect myself. I'm going to protect my family, and I'm going to protect my community. If it was 6, 7, 800 years ago, and the latest technology was a bow and arrow or a tomahawk or a sling,
The
that's what I'm training on.
the David sling.
That is right, David and Goliath.
Yeah.
That I'm training I'm training my community, my family on the latest technology to protect our human rights. And it's universal. Even if we blast off this rock and end up on Mars, right? And we running around with phasers. Yo, I'm looking at the latest technology. I'm gonna be training on it, and hopefully, everybody around us is training on the same technology. Um, because at the end of the day, what we do know is a armed society is a polite society.
That's very true.
Right.
So, explain to me and also the audience what's the difference between the reset triggers and a fully automatic weapon?
All right, good point. On a fully automatic weapon system, when you press the trigger to the rear and hold it, it will continue to cycle until the magazine runs dry.
Mhm.
And then the slide or the bolt will lock to the rear. On a forced reset trigger, it is you actually have to press the trigger slightly to the rear. That trigger will reset and bump your finger forward, and that will happen until you actually come off of the trigger. If you try to run a forced reset trigger like you were shooting a fully automatic gun, you will only get what? One shot. That's it. That's it. If you try to hold that trigger to the rear, and this is very elementary, you will get one shot. However, if you understand reset, right? If you understand how weapon systems reset, all semi-automatic pistols, rifles, shotguns have a reset. And if you understand how that reset works and how to manipulate your trigger, You can learn very quickly. You could learn very quickly, and this is my reset. When you hear that click, as I start to come off of that trigger, you'll hear a click right there. I'm at the wall, what we call the wall, right there. So all I have to do is add a little more pressure, and I could break my shot. On the fully automatic, again, if you pin the trigger to the rear, it's going to continue to cycle. On the Glock 18, it will continue to cycle until you run dry, and then it will lock to the rear. So a forced reset versus fully automatic, the operating system is different, and it was a ingenious way to
Right.
deal with that um, prohibition that's never should have happened. I mean, it's the same thing with suppressors. You know, we want to preserve our hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is hearing safe? It's uncivilized, right? To shoot loud shit,
Right.
right?
They
And
want.
it's very difficult to bring new shooters into this community, right? Traumatizing them with these loud bangs. So we have to be more civilized
Mm-hmm.
about how we approach our new shooters. So I am a proponent of suppression technology. And there's a lot of companies out there giving them away for free, y'all. You don't have to buy suppressors. They're free. They're out there. Go to CanCon.
I look your word.
Recoil Magazine, I believe, sponsors that event, if I'm not mistaken. Recoil Magazine, CanCon,
Mm.
West Coast as well as the East Coast, and I believe they be down, they're down south. But a lot of this stuff, in the industry, uh, particularly if you're a new shooter, is free. NSSF, the National Sports Shooting Foundation. If you are a instructor, if you are a educator, they will support your business of bringing new shooters into the community by providing ammunition, hearing protection, eye protection, the whole nine. There are resources out there if you are about this life and about educating the community with regards to responsible gun ownership.
It's awesome.
Right. It's
Never
crazy. I didn't.
never heard of any. It's like 99% of the things you're telling us, we've never heard it before. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all to the good.
Yeah.
Definitely
Um,
gonna do a deep dive.
yeah. I wrote everything down.
Yeah.
I'll send it in the group chat.
Yeah.
Um, Coach, I am thrilled that we had you on. Thank you for
Yes.
coming on. This has
Yes.
been very educational for all three of us, and it's going to be educational for everybody that's going to listen to it. Tell everybody where they can find you.
All right, yeah. IG, Arms in Motion, ARMSIN Motion, MOTION, Georgia. Arms in Motion, GA. That is our primary page because we are shadow banned, as so
We
many
know
others
about that.
are.
We know.
We have an alternate page, R. Coach McCall. You can find us there. Survival Sisters. Uh, yeah. So those are the primary two platforms until we can regain our First Amendment rights to free speech on
Mhm.
these platforms. It's just is that is the next battle that we have to wage in this space because these platforms are like public utilities
Mm,
and our voices are being silenced
yep.
on these platforms. So I want to thank you guys for finding another medium via this podcast
Mm-hmm.
to get this information out because it is needed. And, just also memorializing
Mm-hmm.
this journey that we are all on
Mm-hmm.
as brothers in the 2A community.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yeah. We try to show people that, just because you're a gun owner, you're not a bad person or you want to go out and
Absolutely.
hurt people, because it's not like that. The gun
Everybody's so
community
nice.
welcome. Yeah, the gun
Everybody's
community
so nice.
greets people with open arms, man. And I guess social media and everything else want to make it seem different, but we're just regular people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we just got to keep, one viewer at a time,
Mm-hmm.
one child at a time, one
Exactly.
family member at a
Mm-hmm.
time. We got to, continue
Mm-hmm.
to, promote this culture and know that, going to the range is only a small part,
Mm-hmm.
right, of your training. 80% of the skill sets necessary to become a proficient shooter and to maintain that proficiency, because we know this skill set
Mhm.
is a perishable skill, just
Mhm.
like driving. If we
Mm-hmm.
weren't driving every day, you'll know because you'll be in some accidents. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing with shooting and so many other things that requires you to train. It's a perishable skill set. Again, 80% is off the range. The other 20% is on the range. So read your manuals.
Mm-hmm.
Go over the nomenclature. There's no reason why you should not know everything on that frame in terms of nomenclature. There's no reason why you shouldn't know every component that is on that slide. So
Mm-hmm.
in the event that it goes down or you have some type of malfunction, you're able to instantly triage the issue. And the first step in doing that is reading your owner's manual.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say 85% of our community, they get their gun and that manual never ever sees the light of day, ever sees the light of day. So that's one small thing
Mm-hmm.
that I would recommend for, not only veteran gun owners, but also new gun owners in the space to do.
Mm-hmm.
Read your manual. And if you can't, any guns that you're interested in, all you got to do is type in the make and model followed by PDF um, on Google or through AI. And guess what? That owner's manual is going to come up. And you can read all about that weapon system for free.
All right.
You are a wealth of knowledge, man, and I appreciate you being on here.
All good, man. I appreciate y'all having me.
All right. Let's see if I mess this thing up. There we go.